welcome to the 8th, oh my god, we're on episode of Cooking with Beth. Tonight we're going to be making a really great recipe, inspired by a recipe that Brittany sent me that we tried and didn't work out. Corey will eat just about anything and we actually threw this away. So the good news is we're not making that, we're making a much more traditional recipe, but I wanted to make it because so many people I know don't know that you can make pudding from scratch. They think that you just get the little box mix, and that is a really quick, easy way to make pudding, but it is also pretty quick and easy to make it from scratch, and I guarantee you it's way more delicious. So that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to make a butterscotch pudding from scratch, which you can eat as a dessert just by itself. You can get these cute little fancy glasses. You can put like some chocolate shavings on, some whipped cream. You can make it really fancy and elegant, and nobody will ever know that that dessert took you like 15 minutes. Or you can do what we're doing and you can turn it into something even more fabulous, which is a semi-traditional banana pudding, which we're in North Carolina. I have to learn how to make banana pudding. I don't actually like banana pudding with vanilla. I like it with the butterscotch. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to make a butterscotch pudding and then we're going to make a banana pudding with it. So, what else was I going to say? Oh, I hope that you watched last week, the potato leek soup. I hope you made it for your family. Hopefully it wasn't too hot where you are. We finally hit summer here. It was 90 plus today and will be 90 plus again tomorrow. And I hope you watched the episode because it's apparently quite funny. There was some technical difficulties. We will not be pulling out the immersion blender today. I promise you that piece of equipment is not as terrifying as apparently I make it look. So we're going to be doing some really basic stuff today. We're going to start at the stove, like I said, and we're going to make the pudding, and we're going to let it chill while we prep our ingredients for the banana pudding, and then we'll assemble. But it's a really exciting recipe, and I hope that you stay tuned. The other thing I wanted to say was that Friday Hazardous Things came out, and I wanted to say thank you to everybody that bought it and shared the post and liked it and told me that they loved it. It was just a great release, and it made me feel really happy that I had decided to finish the series. And other good news, which nobody knows except probably Angela, I finished Extraordinary Things today. The draft is finished. I have some editing to do and a few little things to tweak, but the book is done. It was a very kind of bittersweet moment typing the end on these 4 books and on these guys' lives, but I think that you guys are going to really love the end. So, shall we get cooking? Okay, let's start with pudding. So if you want to come over to the stove, Mr. Producer. The one thing I want to suggest is get a nice pot. I like a stainless steel pot for this because I'm going to use a whisk. There are whisks that are rubberized that you can use with Corey shaking his head. I wish you could like see what he's doing while I'm talking because it's pretty amusing. There are rubber whisks. I have some. Don't you dare do that. You can use those, but I think this is better. So it's a personal preference. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter in the pan. So while that's melting, I'm going to measure out my brown sugar. And I actually printed out my recipe this week, so I don't have to say, oh God, I can't remember what that was in the recipe. Like I said, if you haven't watched last week's episode, it is definitely worth watching. It was kind of an experiment in a lot of things. Okay, so the recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of dark brown sugar. I say this in the recipe, and I have tried it with light brown sugar because that's actually what I had. It's perfectly fine with light brown sugar. The flavor is perhaps not as intense. If I can get it out of the container without dumping it everywhere. There's a reason I got the dark brown sugar to make this again, because I really think that the flavor is improved when you use the dark brown sugar. But if it's what you got, it's what you got. And you can also add a little bit of molasses to light brown sugar, and that will give it, that is actually the difference. I do not know what the proportion is on that. Don't ask me, because I don't know. 10 years later, I might actually, well, there comes a huge chunk now. When you're measuring brown sugar, make sure you pack it into the cup. Okay, that's probably a little bit much, but that's okay. We'll have a really sweet pudding, that's fine. The other thing I want to warn you about is make sure you keep, I'm still adjusting to my gas stove, and sometimes I have problems with it being too hot. So we're gonna put the brown sugar in, and we are going to reduce to medium low. I'm at medium low. This is going to want to burn. I'm going to tell you that right now. Keep an eye on it. This is not the time to go tell the kids to stop fighting, or go grab that thing upstairs that you forgot, or go check the laundry in the dryer. All things I've done except for the kid part. I probably have done that to Earl. Or Corey. Okay, we're gonna let this heat, and we're gonna let it come to kind of a bubbling boil for about 1 to 2 minutes. And then we want to make sure we stir it frequently. Again, it wants to burn. And it's probably going to be hard to tell when it does burn because it's so dark.
Is this like caramel where you have to
very similar.
keep an eye on it all the time?
Yes, actually. And the next thing we're going to do is measure out a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. So this is what gives our pudding its thickness. Cornstarch is a great thing. I love cornstarch. Cornstarch is also great in your Thanksgiving gravy. It will mean you always have fantastic gravy.
Unless you use too much of it and let it clump.
Why would I ever do that?
I'm just saying in general. You're speaking in general.
Don't use too much and let it clump, but it's not going to. If you put it in properly, it's not going to clump. So we're still kind of waiting for it to come to a boil here. I'm mostly just afraid it's going to burn. Because, like, that would be what we would have happen after last week. Of course, no one would know that except us. Okay, so you can kind of see it's beginning to kind of bubble a little bit. So, fun fact, butterscotch does not actually have scotch in it. I know that a lot of people feel that way. It must, but it doesn't. It's a non-alcoholic flavoring. It's actually a very close associate of caramel, but it is not caramel.
Is that caramel or caramel?
Corey has all these theories about caramel versus caramel. I don't remember what they are. Do you want to enlighten us?
I don't have all kinds of theories.
Yeah, him and his nephew VJ have all these theories.
Just one.
Just one? Well, what is it then?
Caramel is one that gets liquidy.
Pourable.
Yeah.
Caramel is like the chewy candies.
Yes.
There you go. See, you got to learn something. We have no idea.
It's totally fabricated.
We have no idea if that's factual. You don't.
It's not. I made it up.
Don't use it. He just made it up. Okay, so we're just still kind of letting this go here. The idea is you're developing the butterscotch flavor in here, and you want it to kind of like cook a little bit. Like I said, you don't want it to burn. Okay, I think I'm going to put my cornstarch in. We're going to reduce the heat to low. We're also going to add some salt. Half my cornstarch didn't come out of the measuring cup. It is going to be a very thick paste. That is totally normal and expected. Couldn't find my 1/4 teaspoon of the salt, so we're just going to eyeball. A little bit of salt, and I think I've probably mentioned this before, a little bit of salt in sweet things actually will sometimes make things sweeter and bring out the natural flavors better. That's why, for example, we have salt in cookie dough and cake batter and all kinds of sweet baking things.
Is that the buttermilk?
This is just regular milk. The key here is that she says whole milk. I didn't actually have whole milk. I didn't want to buy any, so this is a little bit of heavy cream and also 1% milk. So you do whatever, your mileage may vary. Whatever kind of liquid you're going to use, that got really hot, is going to impact how creamy and rich your pudding is. And don't be scared if it looks terrible like this. But you want to add this slowly so it doesn't lump. And this is 3 cups of milk slash cream slash half and half, whatever you want. If you want to go nuts, I would not put 3 cups of heavy cream in here. That would be insane. Don't do that. Your arteries would clog just looking at it. Plus, there's going to be more heavy cream later because this is a Cooking with Beth show. And apparently, I can't help myself. Oh, I just made a mess. Sorry, Corey. Made more of a mess. It also wouldn't be a Cooking with Beth show if I didn't make a mess. Or set something on fire. Interesting fact, when you dump milk into your gas stove, it smells like something horrible just burned in. I'm gonna just like go for the rest of this here. And don't be afraid if it's like really thin. It's gonna start out really thick and then it's gonna get thin. But then when it starts to heat again, it is going to thicken. So, no lumps, we look good. Okay, we are going to cook on, I'm going to turn it up just a hair. We want this to come to a simmer. So, part of it is if you're adding milk like directly from the refrigerator, it's going to take a longer amount of time. I made a huge mess here. Apparently, even using something with a spout, I have problems. Don't set the towel on fire.
Just leave it.
Corey's like resigned at this point. If you use milk that's directly from the fridge, it's going to be colder. It's going to take longer for it to come to a boil. I think mine was probably out for like 10 minutes. So it was still pretty cold. So this is going to take some time. But don't be afraid. Cornstarch will absolutely thicken this. Don't be worried. Are you worried, Corey? No, he's not worried at all. He knows better. So he was really surprised. So the recipe that was a total disaster was I had gotten this recipe for banana pudding cheesecake bars, which sound delicious. Like instead of the graham cracker crust, you use Nilla wafers and you grind them up, and it calls for 2 boxes of banana pudding pudding mix, and you mix that with cream cheese and some other stuff. Well, I thought, well, if I could use like pudding mix, I could use actual pudding, and that would be even better. So I like made a batch of butterscotch pudding, this pudding. And first thing is I used light brown sugar, which was the first mistake. And the second mistake was it just kind of, it was not good. What would you use? How would you describe it? It was like a beige, just, it had no texture.
Is that from the cream cheese you put in?
I think the cream cheese, and like I said, I think that using the light brown sugar was a mistake. Also, the Nilla wafer crust, it wasn't baked and it just got soggy, so it was all kind of just a soggy mess. It was, I have very rarely thrown away things. That got tossed. Corey didn't even eat his entire bowl full. That tells you how bad it was. So I'm not going to subject you to that. So we're starting to get a little thicker. And you'll feel it as you're whisking, but you do want to make sure that you keep whisking. You do not want it to scorch at the bottom. I'll turn this up just a hair. This recipe, well, the pudding recipe is from Smitten Kitchen. She is an amazing, you know how much I love Sally's Baking Addiction. Smitten Kitchen is also amazing. I have 2 of her cookbooks. I read her blog all the time. She is a great go-to for cake. She like tests her recipes like crazy. And that's the same thing that Sally does. And I don't quite do that for you, but I only usually do things that are like I have made a bunch of times. I have made this a bunch of times. Most of the time I don't put cream cheese in it. Apparently that's a no-go. In that particular scenario, you could probably use the pudding mix. I also don't like fake banana flavor, and that would be in the pudding mix, so this is a good banana pudding because it has like actual bananas, which I'm not usually a huge fan of those either, but I like banana pudding. Banana pudding is like a thing here. Like, well, in the South specifically, but like in North Carolina, like that's the one dessert that's on every dessert menu at every restaurant.
Well, it's usually along with barbecue.
Yeah, but a lot of places that have it that don't have barbecue.
This is like watching water boil.
You gotta be patient. I mean, the thing is, the trick here is that, like I said, we used cold milk. Corey's gonna fall asleep. We used cold milk, so it takes a while to come to temperature. And then the other thing is that we have to keep stirring it, right? So, and that's making it so it stays cooler and it doesn't come to boil because we're making sure it doesn't scorch. Are you the Chiquita man? Seriously, if you guys, there was another camera on him. Next week, we're going to try something that is going to be really interesting. So, my like go-to meal for company or for easy weeknight dinner, I mean, you've obviously chicken with mustard sauce, definitely, potato leek soup, but my Greek chicken is like the thing that we like to make in the summer. Corey is a whiz at grilling it, so we are going to do a two-part episode. Yeah, well, you're going to explain your method. Two-part episode. I'm going to make the marinade and the sides, and then we're going to go out to the grill, and Corey is going to show you how he grills the chicken.
Yeah, but you marinate it for like an hour. How are we doing in the middle?
We'll make the marinade first. Okay. Then I'll make the side dishes, and then it will maybe not marinate for as long as we would recommend. You know, making a food show is like very, very challenging. I have a lot more respect for people that do that now. Okay, it's starting to get thicker. It'll probably be hard for you to tell. You really want it to come to an actual simmer though.
Smolder.
That's, I think, the milk that I spilled down there. But you can see it's really beginning to get thick now.
And then next we'll need the blast chiller.
The next we're going to add the vanilla off the heat in a minute. So like I said, you could actually serve this just how it is. You could even just pour it right into your serving dishes and chill those. I have some really cute little just like little glasses, like you can do little wine glasses that just make a really elegant little dessert. They're in that cupboard. They're right there, those ones. So like I have these little cute ones. Just pour it in, put these in the fridge, and then just top it with a little chocolate curl and a little whipped cream, and it looks like super elegant, like you hired a chef to do your stuff, which you didn't. So it's gotten really thick now. We're gonna add the vanilla. Two teaspoons. It says off the heat because, you know, vanilla has alcohol in it. So knowing me, we don't want anything to explode or catch on fire.
Yeah, don't spill that because that's liquid gold.
You know, your jokes are like repetitive. We've heard them before.
But
I hear them all the time.
It's true.
That doesn't mean I haven't heard it before. Okay. Like I said, this is like freaking delicious just the way it is. But we're going to make it even better. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour it in this bowl. And we're going to put this in the fridge. Just a little bit. You could chill it for longer or not as long. But like I said, it does get hot. Or no, it does get hot. It also gets thick. Okay. that's really good. So some people have really strong feelings about pudding skin. I don't really care about that, but we're going to just demonstrate how to deal with that. You put a piece of plastic directly on the pudding. This is a dispenser that I got at Pioneer Woman in Oklahoma when we drove across country when we moved here. Corey vaguely mentions that we're going to be just crossing through a corner of Oklahoma, and I said, we have to go to Pioneer Woman. He's like, well, it's really out of the way. I'm like, this is the only thing I want to do when we're driving across country, when we're moving, is go to Pioneer Woman. We're never going to be in Oklahoma ever again. So Corey worked really hard and found us a way to go to Pioneer Woman, and we actually went there. It was snowing. We had taken the southern route to avoid snow, but we got snow anyway. Anyway, her place is amazing. I didn't actually get to meet her, but it was beautiful. So this is putting plastic on it so it doesn't develop a skin. So I'm going to put this, so you see that, how I just like set it on the pudding? It's really hot, which is why I'm being careful. I'm going to put this in the fridge, and we're going to get set up to make the rest of our banana pudding. Now, like I said, you don't have to do any of the rest of this. That by itself is like fantastic. But this is kind of like, hey, I'm going to a summer potluck or a summer picnic, or I want to make something fun for my family that they'll really enjoy. This is great. So 2 kind of sizes of these trifle dishes. You can also just use a regular bowl like I put the pudding into if you don't have a trifle dish and you don't want to get one. I got this at IKEA for like $10 like a long time ago. This is a great size for just 2 people. Normally I make this size. If I was going to make this, I would probably cut that pudding recipe in half. But we're going to make the full size one. I just got this from Amazon, and it was pretty affordable. It was under 30 bucks, and it's a really nice anchor hocking piece of glassware. And this is what we're going to build our banana pudding in. You can also use these to make trifles. Trifles are awesome. But the first thing we're going to do is make some whipped cream, which we're going to fold partially into our pudding and partially save to be on the top of the pudding, because whipped cream is delicious. So again, remember how I said heavy cream was going to show up again? Heavy cream! By the way, if anyone has been to the store recently and seen the price on heavy cream, this is probably more like liquid gold these days. This container, well, there was one container there that cost like, I'm not measuring, no, $15.99. I didn't buy that, but still. We're also going to add a little bit of powdered sugar to it. I say in the recipe a 1/4 cup. That's just really like what your flavor preference is. I like actually like less sweetened whipped cream. The pudding is going to be plenty sweet. Okay, we're going to have vanilla wafers in it, bananas, and then the butterscotch pudding, which is very rich. This is kind of a lightening aspect. So I'm going to put actually only like 1/8 of a cup in to start with, and then we can taste it and test. So literally whipped cream is like the easiest thing in the universe. It's heavy cream. Make sure it's chilled. Some people suggest you also chill the bowl. I have not found any huge benefit in doing that. And then you whip. Now, if you have a hand mixer, this makes it a lot easier. You can make it by hand. It will take you forever, and you will get an aerobic workout. Or you can use your stand mixer too with the whip attachment. And you just want to whip this until you form stiff peaks. Actually, soft peaks. Soft peaks. I don't know why I said stiff peaks. That's like meringue. And at the very end, we're going to put a little bit of vanilla in. Yes, I know what you're doing. You know, the funny thing is that when he like has a joke that he thinks is really funny and I don't respond, he just keeps at it till I say something. Usually, which is, it's not that funny. But that's like hashtag marriage, right? Also hashtag quarantine. We're spending a lot of time together.
How many episodes ago was it when you made the peanut butter cookies?
What?
How many episodes ago did you make the peanut butter cookies?
I think that was episode 6.
Okay.
Did someone ask a question? They're all on YouTube and they're all embedded on my website, and you can also go into, there's a sidebar on Beth's Boldest, the videos, they're all in there as well. Many ways to watch. If you go to my website, there's a Cooking with Beth drop down on the far right, all the recipes are on each page as well, so that makes it super easy for you. Yes, I'm getting little bits of cream everywhere. So basically, like I said, we're going to take half of this and we're going to kind of like cut the pudding to kind of make it a little bit lighter. Yes, we're going to cut it. We're going to do a technique called folding, which seems intimidating and isn't really. Do not fold that placemat. I swear to God, I got to come over there. He is in like unique form today. You know, if we do the grilling thing next week, you're going to actually have to like do your hair. Or maybe not. He was really excited. He actually got it cut last week, and that was like the highlight of his whole week. Okay, we're almost there. This goes really fast at the end. You really don't want to overbeat this. It's kind of hard to, but you can. It's possible. Okay, I'm going to show you what soft peaks means. This is actually not quite the soft peaks, but I'm going to get the vanilla and then we're going to add that in. This I'm not going to measure because it's just like to taste. There is part of me that cannot believe that there are people still watching this, especially after last week. I wish I looked like I should not be teaching anyone how to do anything. So this is what a soft peak looks like when you rise up with your beater and it just kind of forms like a soft little mountain. You don't want it to be overly beaten. That word that I think I can say correctly. And I just plopped a whole bunch on the floor. Whoops. We'll just clean that up really fast because I'll step in it later for sure. I would hate to tell you that like all this stuff is normal or not normal, abnormal, but it's totally normal. This is how cooking really is. Okay, so we have our whipped cream, okay? So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our bananas. And I really like almost really ripe, or not, almost green bananas for this. I don't like super ripe bananas in this because the problem is that this pudding is better if it sits for a day, because then like the vanilla wafers absorb the flavor of the pudding and they get soft. Almost like if you've ever had tiramisu, like the lady fingers, they get soft. So if you put really ripe bananas in, the chance of them being mush by the end when you're actually eating this is going to be extremely high. And since I don't like mushy bananas, we start with things that are definitely not mushy. I also really hate these banana strings. Does anyone else hate banana strings? Because I don't eat a lot of bananas, and I think that's partially why. I like bananas in things. We're just going to make like little medallions here. And obviously this is going to depend on the size of your banana. How many bananas you need. That's one. I think we'll do at least two. These are pretty massive bananas. Chiquita. The one thing about these episodes that we've come to realize is how truly weird I am, and I hide most of it on the internet, except not anymore. I'm all exposed. I mean, but truly, did you expect anything different? I spend all day in a little room making up stories about people that I don't know that talk to me in my head. So that was probably a pretty high threshold of weird. start with those. Now, vanilla wafers is a very traditional thing that you use in banana pudding. Could you use something else? Could you use the off-brand? You could. Could you use reduced fat? At this point, I'm like, you've already have a lot of fat in here, so it seems kind of like pointless to not go whole hog, but you know. So here's a leftover bag that I have, so this is what they look like. They're kind of boring on their own. I wouldn't just buy a box of these to eat it. I'm not doing that. But they're delicious in banana pudding. So, let's go get the pudding. Now you can chill it longer. You can also chill it not at all, but I think taking a little bit of the heat off of it in this situation is probably going to be a good thing. So I'm going to take off the plastic, and we're going to put in half of our whipped cream, and we're going to do something called folding. So the idea behind folding is we've given like this whipped cream some volume here, right? We've kind of whipped it up and made it kind of airy. So the idea behind putting some whipped cream in here, folding it in, is that we want this pudding mix that we're putting in, layering in our banana pudding, to be kind of light and airy too, and not like super heavy and dense. So the idea is we don't want to lose the air and the volume that we've put into the cream. So the idea is you take your spoon or your spatula and just kind of gently fold. Okay? This would probably be more effective if the pudding wasn't hot, but you get the idea. Like I said, it's really hard to produce a cooking show. It's like not many things you do are like start to finish. Like so many of the things you cook, like, you know, oh, it needs to like...
That's why we needed that blast chiller.
Well, I kind of got the impression that if I wanted to buy more expensive appliances to use in this, you wouldn't really be on board with that, so... Now the idea is you want to get this mostly mixed, but you don't want it to be like, to get it completely mixed, you would obviously have to like probably mix it in a traditional way, and we don't want to do that. So it's going to end up being kind of like marbled almost, which is kind of cool too. That's like a pretty, that's like an Instagrammable thing, right? You can also turn the bowl around when you do this. The key here is you don't want to be in a huge rush, okay? Take your time. It's not like you have a bunch of people watching you on the internet or anything.
How do you know when you're done?
When it's mostly one homogeneous color. That was $1 million word, homogeneous. That's delicious. Okay. We have some Diet Coke and then we can continue.
Well, you can have Diet Coke with dessert.
You can have Diet Coke with anything.
It's like the
You should know this by
It's like
now.
the reduced fat wafers.
I have the Diet Coke so I can eat the banana pudding. That's the key. Okay, now I looked up a bunch of people's recipes and they all said start with the pudding, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like putting crust into a pie, or putting the pie filling into the pie pan before the crust. I'm like, you need something on the bottom to like keep everything together.
Foundation.
So that's the way I'm doing it. If this bothers your southern sensibilities, I'm sorry in advance. So basically what I'm doing is I'm making a single layer of vanilla wafers into the bottom of this. Some people, like the Delish people, have this like really pretty design going around the edge. Guess what? I'm not going to try to do that. If you want to do that, more power to you. That's just not really my jam. I would also not suggest, you really want just like a single, you can have them overlapping a little. You do not want like a huge, like, don't put a second layer of vanilla wafers on there, because the whole idea behind this is that you want the pudding to kind of soak in a little bit to the Nilla wafers and make them like soft and taste better than they would normally. Because like I said, you don't want to just take these and eat them. I mean, they're like fine. They're just kind of non-offensive, but this is the stuff that's really good, okay? So, we are going to put in a layer of pudding. And if your Nilla wafers shift around, it's fine. No one is going to come out of the woodwork and be like, your Nilla wafer shifted around.
Well, you could probably push on them a little bit.
You probably could. You can just bury them a little bit.
There you go.
Just want to kind of like get everything covered, get everything happy. Don't worry about some of this stuff. We're going to cover that up. It doesn't have to look perfect. As long as it tastes delicious, it doesn't matter. Now, bananas. Like I said, this is one of these desserts that is really better the second day, especially if you haven't completely chilled your pudding, like some people. Because they were doing a show on the internet. So, unfortunately, Corey, you will not get any this night. I'm sorry, we're like that couple that has like 100. My mom's like, are you guys like this all the time? Like, this was when we first met, and she was like, or she first met him, and she was like, you guys like have all these like inside jokes and all these funny things you say to each other that you understand. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Okay. So, layer of banana. So a trifle is also a really great thing to make. If you've never made a trifle, you can use like store-bought like cake or pound cake or anything like that, or you can use a box mix. It's really easy. Then you make like some kind of pudding-like item. You want it to be kind of light like this one is. And then you layer it with like fruit or caramel or really anything you like. It's also a fantastic dessert and delicious and easy and impressive looking. Which is another reason to buy this glass bowl. Okay. Pudding time. Maybe this is going to actually get easier to deal with as time goes on. It did get lighter, there is that. Oh, whoops. That's really good. Like I said, I've made this with like traditional vanilla pudding. And it's good, but man, this is like so much better. It has so much more depth of flavor. I'm assuming there haven't been any questions or anything. These bananas want me to make it into like some pretty thing on the side, but we're not doing that. I'm gonna have to cut more bananas. I'm used to using that small little dish, which is actually really great for 2 people because, man, I don't know how we're gonna eat all this. Maybe we'll go get Guy next door. That Guy is not just Guy, he's our neighbor. His name is Guy. I did give him cookies at Christmas because I made like way too many. And they were donated to Guy. He thought they were a special gift, but he didn't know they were just extra.
Yeah, but we could have given them to anybody.
And we didn't know anyone else.
That's not true.
Okay, your nephew and his wife.
No, I mean in the neighborhood.
We didn't know any else in the neighborhood.
That's not true. I knew the people across the street, and I knew.
What is their name?
Ooh, I can't remember now.
See? He doesn't even know their name.
Well,
We're going to show up at their door with some cookies.
I knew then.
Hey, little girl, do you want some cookies?
It's candy, little girl. I think Mario would have liked them.
Mario's retirement was just, maybe we should come and give him some.
You know he wouldn't have turned them down. He's only 2 doors down.
I was like, I don't remember what layer I'm on. I'm on banana.
That's why you had to cut more.
Yes. I'm sorry, this is probably really boring. I'm not good at talking while like doing other things. Like cutting things with a sharp knife. I'm trying to think of other really fun. Oh, I can think of a fun food story. So for our wedding, I got these Japanese shun steel knives, which are amazing. If you've never had really good knives before, it's an experience that you will not soon forget. The other problem is that they're so sharp that you like cut yourself and you don't even realize you've done it. So we got married in September. Our anniversary is September 12th, not that anyone cares. God, these are slippery little suckers. So our first married Thanksgiving, I'm using the shun knives, which I've only had for a couple of weeks. I'm like making the first thing, I'm cutting the first thing, it's first thing in the morning. And if you know me at all, you know I'm an overachiever. And so like when I make Thanksgiving dinner, I don't want anyone to bring anything. I make the entire thing from scratch, start to finish. Okay? So I have like all this, my refrigerator is packed with food that all needs to be prepared. And I cut myself like badly, like the first 5 minutes. And Corey's like, you can't use that hand. It was my right hand, which is my dominant hand. So we spent the rest of Thanksgiving together, Corey being the hand that I could use. I can't even remember what layer I'm on. It's amazing I actually managed to write coherent manuscripts, you guys. It's like actually miraculous.
That's because of the dessert can't talk to you.
Yeah. Actually though, like usually when I finish a book, I like already know, oh, I'm gonna have to go back and like fix a bunch of stuff already. Like I'm like, oh, I'm finished with this book, but I have at least one scene I know I want to add, and another little thing I want to add, and a little thing I want to change, and yeah. I'm not one of those people that edits as I go. I try to just get the whole thing out. And so usually when I do my final pass before I send it to beta readers, that's when I fix all that stuff. I'm gonna get the other spatula. I didn't divide my layers very well, and I don't want to miss any of this yummy stuff because it's really good. Okay, that's good enough. I think I really do need a garbage bowl.
You have one now.
Yeah.
You just finished taking pudding on it.
So suffice it to say, you guys, this is a really rich dessert. So I'm gonna do.
You want one more banana?
One more banana, and then we're gonna do the whipped cream. Though actually, I'm not gonna put the whipped cream on now because the whipped cream, like I said, this really needs to sit for like 24 hours. It's a lot better, or at least a couple hours before you serve it. Whipped cream doesn't tend to like sit well. It kind of loses that aeration that you whipped into it, the volume. You could make stabilized whipped cream, but holy crap, I don't have the time or the energy to deal with that. So,
or use Cool Whip.
Who are you? Why did I marry you? Who would ever put Cool Whip on this? You can also, a lot of people put meringue, which is like egg whites and sugar whipped together, and then they like blowtorch it. It looks really fancy. I'm not that fancy. Sorry, guys. I do really like meringue though, so if I ever like was making like a really fancy meal, maybe I would do a meringue topper, but we're not doing that. Though actually, I think I am going to put the whipped cream on top because this is kind of coming. This is a very big container.
It's a vat.
Seriously, who's gonna help us eat this whole thing? I wish my parents were here. I wish Mandy was still here. If I cut up part of this banana, will you eat the rest of it? That's what marriage is for, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like, I have like a few pieces short. And I was like, if it was just me, I would probably dig those pieces out and like divide them in half even more, but who knows who's gonna eventually eat this pudding? It might be Mario, who's just retired. We know this because he has a sign on his garage, not because we actually know Mario.
So what about while you're cutting those, alternate things to put in here, like a suggestion about lady fingers as opposed to...
You could use lady fingers instead of vanilla wafers. Vanilla wafers, I've said this before, are really not anything to blow your skirt up. They're not really special. You could use vanilla wafers. I actually considered really going rogue and putting like blueberries in this, but I thought that that would cause like a whole explosion of the South, so I didn't do that. But you could. Where's my whipped cream? I didn't maybe whip this quite enough, but that should be fine. Now, it's super fancy. Did you just laugh when I said super fancy?
Yeah, but not at it.
Did someone make a comment? I'm not usually one of those people that decorate stuff, so if it looks terrible, that's not my fault.
I don't know how you decorate with ladyfinger on there.
Well, you don't have to. You could decorate with, like I said, blueberries. I'm going to actually put a few more slices of banana.
How would you know which finger it was?
Well, if it's a lady's finger, it wouldn't be my finger.
No, which finger? Yeah, it's my banana.
Not anymore. Well, you might get a few pieces. Ooh. They're very slippery. They just want to go diving into the whipped cream, which I can understand that feeling. Okay. There, look, you can have a piece of banana. Okay, so that is butterscotch banana pudding, which looks actually really impressive. And you can see the layers are actually pretty even. You can see like just a little bit of the vanilla wafers in there. As I eat the banana. And it actually turned out pretty even. Anyway, I hope you at least try the homemade pudding because it's delicious. And I hope you try making this because this is a perfect summer dessert, like I said, to take to barbecues or picnics or potlucks. Everyone will be super impressed and think you're some kind of gourmet chef. Because lots of people think that I'm a gourmet chef, and trust me, I am not. Jess, was there a question?
What about crushed vanilla wafers? As like a crust, I guess, or sprinkled on top, or both? You
could do that. Like I said, the problem when I made the bars, I think that crust would really need to be baked before you put any kind of liquid custardy pudding mix into it. Because they were pulverized, it was like, because when you have it in this, and it like absorbs the flavor and of the pudding and everything, and they kind of get soft, it doesn't feel mushy or like just, it really works. Something about grinding them up like was just a terrible thing. So I don't know, I probably wouldn't recommend doing it just because I don't know how that's going to turn out. But it would be really pretty to like sprinkle the crushed ones on the top. I will give you that. Like I said, I am not somebody that usually decorates things, so that's probably as fancy as I'm ever going to get. Something else that would be delicious if you took a little dark chocolate and you like took a vegetable peeler and you just shaved some dark chocolate shavings on top of here, that would be delicious too. So Any more questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, well, I'm so glad that you guys came and watched today. Please try it. Let me know how it goes. And stay tuned next week when we have our big double episode. Corey at the grill, Bethany with the marinade and the side dishes. I'm super excited about this. Hopefully it doesn't rain. Everyone cross their fingers. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.